Right then, folks, we're going to review this. We've got Tracy there and Belinda there, Denise van Outen. Let's get to the summary. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So, Kappatoo uses his wristband to distort time at the football match so that everybody else is moving at a quarter the speed of him, allowing him to score 17 goals and his team to win the match. Tracy, who Simon is madly in love with and who Kappatoo has been trying to impress for Simon as his part of the deal, agrees to come to the party with him that is being held at Simon's house that night after Steve's parents told Steve it could no longer be hosted at his house. She makes it clear, though, that if she is left alone for more than 10 seconds, she will leave. All is going well at the party until a pot gets broken. Well, yeah. And Kappatoo goes to investigate, leaving Tracy. She leaves annoyed, and to stop the pot getting broken, Kappatoo reverses time. As Tracy is outside of the space where time is rewound, another Tracy appears at the party. Because the Tracy that went home forgot her jacket, and her mother told her to go back and get the jacket. With some help from the computer and Steve, who coaxes Tracy back to the party. Well, after she was... Yes, that was the other Tracy. Yes, the second Tracy. Yes, who coaxes the second Tracy back to the party because the first Tracy was coming back to get her coat. Kappatoo gets the two girls to touch and rewinds time, solving the issue. Simon's parents arrived not too happy with a party going on and a giant hole gushing water in the front garden after the washing machine blew a mains pipe after being used to make fuel for Kappatoo's wristband. Simon watches the rest of the match. The football match, and is overjoyed at how well Kappatoo has done. But his excitement is short-lived when Sigma 6 beams into the dome and advises Simon that he is bringing a statutory declaration of charges against Kappatoo for cheating at the hypergrid. Simon initially believes he can lie his way out of it, but the computer informs him he will have to wear a truth detector, and to beat it would be impossible. Right then. So Jeff, what were your thoughts, and then we can have Wojtek's thoughts.
Okay, we'll start with this week's nerdy nitpick of the week. So Tracy's out of range, so that means everything else out of range doesn't rewind, but only that brief thing does. Then how does that affect the rest of everybody? that all of these people went 3 minutes back. It starts opening up a whole new time paradox dimension and all.
It's magic.
Yeah. And then the second question that comes to mind at the other part is not as much a nitpick as just a question, is like the truth detector, but okay, but he's going to be asked questions though, right? So if he's not asked a question that he has to lie to, then he might still not get busted. So I guess if it's something where they ask him like, what is your name or something like that right off the bat, and he's going to say his real name, maybe that, but I don't know. I'm still saying there might still be a way out of it depending on what they ask him.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else did I think? I didn't like Tracy's mother. Like, I know you're not supposed to like her, but I just didn't like the character. Not like I don't like her as in I'm in the universe and she's annoying. I mean, like, she just came across as sort of a caricature and not. Most of these characters have been very believable, and she kind of comes off as just we need a generic snob woman or something. So that all the parts with her. The one exception would be at the end when she kind of acts like, who cares that your daughter's being taken care of by the 11-year-old. Then that was slightly amusing, but all the scenes with her and Tracy were just kind of like, okay, that was dumb. But anyway.
What about Tracy? Do you feel differently about Tracy compared to Mufo?
Not really. I mean, she continues to be just kind of you know, I don't know what the right word is. Like I could see how boys would find her attractive, but in terms of obviously personality wise, she's just like, she hasn't exhibited any attractive characteristics. So it's like, why would anybody like her in the first place? Other than the fact that she sort of tells her mom off about it doesn't really matter, like that he's not rich or something, you know. So that'd be the one thing, is that she's willing to set that aside. So I guess, but in comparison to her mother, she's not as bad.
Yep. So for the audience, I'll say that Jeff's favorite kind of woman is an ENFP.
Well, I mean, maybe. That's not necessarily true, but that is just there is something attractive about ENFPs. And I've said before, that's not even necessarily a romantic attraction, because male ENFPs that I've hung out with have been fun too. So it's just sort of something about that particular personality that makes them fun to be around. But also can be a letdown, because if they're distracted and focused on something else or somebody else, then it's like you're not even there. So, but I suppose that's probably true for everybody.
What's the ESFP ENFP intertype relation in socionics?
Oh gosh, let me think.
E equals MC squared.
Oh, it should be like business.
Business.
No, wait a minute. No, that's not right. No.
Business.
Oh, wait a minute.
BIDNEZ. Business.
Wait a minute. It's
You're right, Ben. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what the computer said in response to like him saying that there was a problem because there were two Tracys, but it was almost better that I didn't understand him, because I'm like, I think it's supposed to be some sort of innuendo, but you know, it's like enough of a family show they can't have enough really. So it was better that I couldn't understand what he said.
Oh right, okay, I'll tell you that joke. Okay, so basically it was referencing someone. So basically what he was saying was, when he said there's two Traces, and he says, well, that sounds like a solution, not a problem. That means you'll have one each. That means you and Simon can have a Tracy each.
Oh, okay. See, I to me, I read it as he was trying to make some sort of innuendo joke, but I couldn't.
Well, the innuendo is that like Simon and get to have one each, and then we'll one each to do what with?
Yeah, well,
right.
Anyway,
and that's why he said it in a sort of lascivious kind of carry-on movie kind of voice.
It's funny that actually I think the actress who plays Tracy, like in the face, she has more of a resemblance to Lucy, I think, even though they're not supposed to be related. So they look like they could be sisters.
Right. What did you think of Belinda?
She kind of has that trying too hard kind of vibe.
Right.
But I thought it was. I mean, that was a realistic dynamic. You know, it's just.
Well, okay. So Wojtek, what did you think of the story?
Oh, I mean, I like the sci-fi plots very much. The sci-fi elements, the time loops, the gadgets. With I always thought that he moved faster. That he used a wristband to move faster, not that he slowed everyone else down. I don't know if the summary is right about that, because it makes more sense if he himself was, because everyone was looking at the match, so they would notice that everyone is moving slower.
No. Well, no, not if they themselves and their whole processes were also slower.
So he enveloped the whole field in his time loop.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And he was making everybody else move and think and do everything at quarter speed.
Yeah, as Jeff said,
So was he?
mechanics and logics of this are questionable, but yeah.
Was he also playing? Was he also going back and playing the goalkeeper to stop them from ever scoring too? Is that because it was? It's one thing if it was 17-8 or something, but 17-0. So he was not only.
Well, yeah, but maybe it's just like they couldn't get the ball off him. It's
Yeah,
like because he was so quick.
He the ball every time.
Yeah.
I've been to a game with a similar score, and it really was kind of like that, where every time the one kid would just get the ball and go down and score over and over again. So
now, I think what they could have
6-year-olds, but
now what they could have done is the fact that he doesn't know how to play football, so he should have really messed up, even though he had the speed advantage, and then eventually was able to win.
Yeah,
so,
well, that's the thing is that they don't show you the entire game, so maybe that was like the last few minutes, and it took him that long to. And he still should have been more out of breath because they've established that he doesn't have the energy to, to play that much. So even if everybody's slower, he still should have been like collapsing at the end.
They had the touch where at the party when he was dancing, he looked like he was getting knackered from it. But you see, one of these things is that they may have done the outside scenes in one batch, and sometimes they can lose track of where they are in terms of fitness and that lot, and how fit the character should be. Although it was all done on videotape, and because in the old days on Doctor Who, all the external stuff was done on film. I remember they once did something outside on videotape, maybe in the early 70s. Right. Yeah, I like the plot in this.
By the way, this whole plot with the time doubling, the time cloning of Tracy, isn't this like stolen from Back to the Future?
Well, Jeff would know. He's a bit of a Back to the Future expert, is Jeff.
That's funny because I was thinking that the thing with him going back and trying different times with Tracy reminded me of the movie Groundhog Day, but of course that came after this. I don't know whether the original story was written before this, but
it was
the movie
after Back to the Future, I think, because Back to the Future was like late 80s, I think.
Yeah, but this came from two children's books, and I don't know when they were published, but so
I don't think that concept was new in Back to the Future. That kind of had been done.
They did have, but I think that I do remember that. I thought that Back to the Future 2 got the idea of. I think the way they did time travel in Back to the Future 2 was very good with like the parallel universe. But I don't remember there being two of somebody in that. But I've not seen that film in over 15 years.
No, which film are you talking about now?
Back to the Future 2.
Oh yeah, there's multiple scenes because they create like two divergent timelines and.
No. I mean, specifically, a woman was time cloned, or at least there were two different versions from two different times. The love interest of the main character in Back to the Future 2, when they go to the future and then they see each other, and there was something. It was a long time ago since I last seen it, but there was this whole plot about they were not supposed to touch each other because this could destroy the whole universe. Do you remember that?
So this is Marty McFly's mother.
Yes.
And when she's
no, not Marty McFly's mother, but his girlfriend. And they visit the future, and there's a future version of her, I think. Jeff, can you remember that?
Yeah.
So,
Because Jeff, didn't you go to the cinema to watch all 3 Back to the Future films when there was like an anniversary?
Yeah, it was the day that the second film is set in 2015. They in theaters they had triple feature. So I think it was like October of 2015, maybe. So yeah, Morgan and I went and saw all 3 of them back to back to back.
Right then. So you want to know when? It's going to be quite difficult to find out, but I'll have a look when the Kappatoo book came out.
and
Well, what I was
kind of
saying is
think
that I
that,
don't think
the
Back to the
theme,
Future invented the concept. It's been done in things before.
Yeah, I mean, it's that sort of thing's been done a lot. Yeah.
the theme, the musical theme of Kappatoo that plays all the time, it seems reminiscent of Back to the Future. At least it seems to be. Jeff, do you remember that one?
Yeah, I think I said in one of the previous episodes that if they made the wristwatch a little too powerful, or if it was used in too many different things, it would be like, the sonic screwdriver or something that's been overused to just sort of get out of situations. But I think the way they've used it, there's enough flaws and things that are created by it that they've established that it's not. He can try to use it as his get out of whatever device, but there's always sort of side effects and drawback to that. So I think that's good, the way that they've consistently used that, where sometimes it creates more problems than it solves.
Yeah, I saw. I found an interview with Ben Steed when he was writing about his approach to, and this might have a bearing on this, where he wrote about he was asked about his story, The Harvest of Kairos, and he said that he wanted to get them away from the ship because the ship was really powerful, the computer was really intelligent, Aurak was really intelligent, so he wanted to get them on their own to sort of like make them feel sort of more desperate. So I think as a writer, he was aware of not wanting to make it too easy for Kappatoo. Sort of like in line with what you said there about the wristband not being too powerful. And also can be a point where through its faults that you can develop plots with it.
Yeah, it's used in a way that's funny. Eventually, it still might get old, but so far, I think they've used it in ways that it's provided more comedy rather than cringing about it or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's used for the situations that an adolescent would want to get out of or would want to change.
Yeah. In fact, he's been quite responsible with it, with the wristband. But then again, he knows he's being watched on the histogram and by us, maybe. That's something that they could have put in. A sly reference to, better watch my behaviour on being watched on the historygram, as a sort of allusion to being watched on television. But that might have been a bit too destabilizing to sort of put that sort of meta level.
Wait, what do you mean? They are everyone can watch his time crimes through the histogram.
Well, I don't know if it's possible, though, isn't it? That somebody could watch what he was up to, because Simon Cashmere is watching him on the histogram. So others. So what I'm sort of saying is that he could have got up to some stuff. Like if they did the adult version of this, he could have got up to some stuff with the wristband, and they could have put a line, I can't do that because I'm being watched. Anyhow, and I'm also a decent person. Right then.
I think it's a good sign that, like, your description, or not your description, but the one you read, it sounds a lot more convoluted than the episode felt. So they're able to have all of these things going on at the same time without it feeling like it's just getting too complicated and stuff. It all makes sense in context.
It's with these things. What I got to remember next week is to read this before I actually read it out in the event, because some of the mangled English in this, it throws me off when I'm reading it, and so I need to read it before.
Bring back what's his face, the guy who wrote the homicide reviews.
Oh, can I remember his name? David B2. Right? I never remember his name. What's his name, Jeff?
What?
What's his name of that guy? David something B something Morris?
Yeah, see, you remembered more of it than I did.
Oh, I thought you'd probably got that artisan thing of like if it's within the short-term memory is golden, but like it's a few years ago. Yeah, nothing.
I think it was like B226 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's the part that threw you off was the letters and numbers in the middle. But it's like that in itself is sort of like a sign of a bygone era now. Like, you know, there's that period of the internet where everybody had those screen names with numbers in them or something, you know, and now it's not as much of a thing.
Yeah. I was sort of watching this for. I thought because there's it had the Denise van Outen appeal, this episode for me. I also sort of noticed something with the Castell. Kappatoo, someone from the future who's meant to be weedy. Look at his arms. The actor is like, and he's pretty well built.
Well, there's only so much they can do.
Yeah, there's only so much they can do.
I feel like when we talked about, I think you were in on that conversation. I think Morgan was. We were talking about the versions of Superman, and one of the comics where they have, like, Clark Kent is just jacked because he has to be like, they're trying to make it realistic, like his Superman body, but he's in his Clark Kent clothes. Yeah. So he's wearing the suit, but is like rippling muscles out of the suit.
I mean, like, for an 18-year-old, I mean, he was 18 when he played this part. I mean, it's pretty darn good shape. So,
well, I mean, they haven't said that that Kappatoo is like out of shape. It's just he doesn't have to do. He just doesn't have the stamina, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The lack of the physical activity. So
yeah, maybe it has been taking some stereo foods.
I was about to say they very well could be some sort of synthetic enhancement going on.
Yeah,
because they never did say, as far as I know, if they did, I missed it. Whether or not Kappatoo was already trying other means to cheat before he decided to to pluck somebody from the past.
Yeah. Something weird in this. Not weird. It's just it's a slight cheat they've done. Towards the end of the previous episode, she'd already walked away from the football match, and now she's back at it. Now maybe she's decided to come back and watch the football match.
Well, I mean, he didn't rewind that far? Isn't that what happened?
I think this is before the. I don't know. You might be right there because, yes, because it starts there.
Yeah. So when he
was and then that's when she walks away. Yeah, right. I think you're right. It did be.
Yeah, in the last one, he'd already like fallen down and stuff. So that's when he rewinds to. That's why I didn't understand the very beginning, because I thought it was a recap, and he was saying something about him cheating, and I thought, well, he didn't do that yet, but then he does in this, so I guess it was sort of a preview rather than a recap, but it went by too fast for me to tell.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed is that When you get serials in science fiction, I think it's a little bit harder for the audience to follow when it's rather than say other genres, because in other genres or genre, you haven't got to sort of remember some idea things. You know, like for instance, you could have like a Game of Thrones thing or in soaps, but you could imagine what it would be like with a science fiction serial that's been going on for years. That it's difficult for the audience, for a general audience, to follow all of the stuff because you got to keep track of multiple ideas.
Yeah, they tend to get around that on soaps, or at least they used to, with having the characters always having flashbacks. They would always be thinking back to the earlier scene, and the really hilarious thing is when they would do it to something that happened earlier in the same episode. It almost becomes parody level there when you're like, let me sit down and think about what happened earlier today. But the truth is, I guess there are some people who really do that. I mean, they think about what happened earlier in the same day as opposed to 2 weeks ago. But it seems funny when you're watching something with somebody to sit down and have a daydream about what happened earlier in the episode.
Yeah, I just think it's a thing with science fiction that, and I'm not saying that this has done that. It just made me think of it, where something like Babylon 5 had a small audience, but a very passionate audience. And it's difficult for people to understand, like, because it's like with all the arc plot stuff. And maybe it's just easier with a soap because you've not got all of the ideas to sort of like keep in your head all the while, especially for a concrete. If you've got an audience that's mostly concrete, artisans and guardians, then it's not got to like learn a string of ideas in the continuity of the program, and so some people can be lost by what's happening. I think it maybe because it's more familiar. So maybe serials work better when it's not science fiction.
I don't know, because I haven't seen enough to really know that.
But with these are not that long. I mean, it's like, because there've been episodes of Doctor Who, like season 10, the first one in colour. I think like 3 or 4 of them were like 7 episodes each. So
I think that was season 7, actually.
Actually, you're right. Yes, you're right. Yes, it started in 63. Yeah.
One of those things with Doctor Who where it was done mainly for budget reasons.
Yeah, because
to have a longer serial and keep the same sets than it was to do more and have to change.
Yeah, and apparently when they went to colour, they didn't really get a budget increase, which is difficult. Anyway, so I give this 8 out of 10 because I like the idea with Tracy and sort of like the in-universe reason of her being out of range. I thought, not thinking about it from a scientific point of view, but from a sort of a plot mechanics point of view, I thought it was quite well done. And I also liked the fact that Denise van Outen's character got something to do in her episode, and that they added that bit where you could almost say, you could argue there's some subtext in it, in that when she's saying, okay, he's none too bright, he's got a head shaped like a football, but it was like you could almost say that what she felt inside was slightly different from what she was saying, because she was sort of saying that to placate those around her, and that she had some mixed feelings.
Yeah, well, obviously she wasn't the guy, or she wouldn't have acted that way to begin with. I mean, she would just really ignore him. So
I thought that was quite good, and gave her a little bit of something to do. Maybe what could have been better, in my opinion, is the writing for this guy, the computer. And we've said before, what we really need, we need Robin Williams to play him. and he can come up with.
Yeah, he was a bit mumbly in this episode. He was, I mean, just in terms of inarticulate, he was hard to understand for me.
Yeah, because he was doing voices that you're not familiar with. Whereas, almost ashamed to admit that I get most of the things that he's saying in terms of like who he's doing an impression of. Like, I think he even delivered one thing, and I went, "Oh, that's Robin Day." Yeah. Right then. So, I give this, and it is building up, and it was sort of building up the tension with the visor, the truth enforcer. So I give this 8 out of 10.
It was fun. Continues to be well paced, and I liked the kind of madcap comedy, of the scenes with at the party and all that, and the little elements. Tracy's mother drags it down slightly though, so I'll give it a 7.
Okay. What do you give it, Wojtek?
Both of those thumbs up. So that would be, I don't know, maybe 8 out of 10.
Okay,
9 out of 10 actually, because of the time plots.
Yeah, we get extra points for a good idea, but also well executed, not just the idea, because we'll have seen this sort of thing done many times. It's how well it's handled. It's the execution of the idea. Right then, so maybe I should end the recording now. What do you think? Yeah, okay, I will.
Cool.
I'll end the recording. Go on.